Hey folks, so welcome to this weekly workshop, the Join the Police workshop, run by my good self, Brendan from Bluelight. For those of you who haven't met me before, I set up the Bluelight Facebook group, which you probably saw the link to this in, and I'm so pleased that so many of you could make it, especially with it being such short notice. I had a long weekend away over this weekend, and this morning I thought, when am I going to run the workshop? And then worked out that this evening is the only evening I can actually run it, because I'm running webinars, interactive webinars for different courses throughout the rest of the week. So pleased that so many of you could make it. What we're going to do this evening is we're going to not going to do any introductions. We just don't have time. We've only got 1 hour. And then what we're going to do is we're going to look at the sort of questions, the sort of queries, the sort of conundrums that you have with the police recruitment process. I've coached and supported over 12,000 people into the police over the past decade or so. So there's not much I don't know about how the system works and how the process works. So let's start then. Let's kickstart the evening. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go around the Zoom room and ask what questions you've got, because some of them might be interconnected. And then I'll look at how I'm going to connect them all together, give you some explanations. Maybe we could get some practice in as well. If any of you have got interviews or anything like that coming up, we could get some practice in. And let's just see how it goes. Very organic, no set agenda. So who's got questions? Who's got queries? Who's got conundrums? Give me a hands up if you've got something you want to raise there. Straight away, Emily's hand was up. So go on, Emily. What is it we can help you with?
Well, I actually have my Met Detective Assessment Centre tomorrow. It's the bolt-on one at the centre, so I have quite a few questions just regarding that.
All right, and the questions are, help, how do I pass it?
Yes. No, one of them's, I don't know how to naturally integrate the competencies and values in the format of the written or the presentation, and then the written in-tray exercise. I'm not sure what format they want you to write it in and whether that will be given. And then just a quick one about vetting, anything I should do, like making everything private on the internet and stuff like that.
All right, we can look at that. I've helped so many people in through that DC bolt-on, the direct entry bolt-on for the Met. Tomorrow, wow, not much notice.
No.
What I can say is it's tough, but I'll come to some explanation about how integrating written exercise, briefing, all of that kind of stuff. We'll cover that this evening. But it is tough. It's a tough day. Yes, really challenging. Really challenging. Okay, thanks, Emily. Okay, who else? What else? Who else and what else? There we go. Joshua.
Hi, can you hear me, Brendan?
I can, yes.
Bro, I've got my online assessment centre on Thursday, starting Thursday, for Kent Police degree holder entry programme. I basically just had a few quick conundrums, quick queries about the stage 3 briefing, obviously the infamous stage 3 briefing, and about the current iteration of the briefing, if there's consensus on that, and just general structure points about the briefing.
Okay, yeah, we can cover that off. Thanks, Joshua. Who else? Okay, there we go. Kit. Go on, Kit, just unmute yourself.
Hello, yeah. Brendan, my question's also about the stage 3 briefing. I understand that you will need to have some knowledge on police powers. I'm just wondering how I go, like things like dispersal and the seizing the alcohol, but how would I go about finding more out about those powers that are required?
Okay, yeah, we can cover that. Thanks, Kit. And who else? What else have we got? Anyone else? Yeah, there's, I'll just bring my cursor around. Tyler.
Yeah, I've got my final interview for West Yorkshire Police on Thursday, and just any tips or anything. I've watched like all your videos and everything, so just any tips really on anything.
Okay, help. All right, okay, thanks, Tyler. One more, and then we'll see how we get on with these. Any more? Yep, go on, Elaine. Just unmute yourself. Oh, I forgot.
Oh, good evening, sir. My name is
No, that's
Hassan.
not Elaine. Hang on, that's not Elaine. I'll come to you in a moment, Hassan. Okay, Elaine. I'll ask to unmute you.
I'm just tap to speak. Got it, I think.
Yeah, you've just.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but we can't see you now. You've disappeared.
Oh. Right, okay, 2 seconds. I've never used my phone for Teams. Can you see me now?
Yeah, we can see you now. Yes, brilliant.
Yeah. So basically I failed my final interview last year.
Yeah.
I prepared wrong, basically. It just ended up being the competency-based interview again that I did with the OAC. So just more of a refresher and just listening into, just getting back on track with things, and hopefully I'm ready for another go at the final interview again.
All right. What force was that for?
Dorset Police.
Dorset. Okay. And thanks, Elaine. And then Hassan.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Recently, I have just completed the police constable behavior style question, and now they will be asking for the next step for the day one assessment center. But I have like a zero idea. I have no idea because I'm very new here, and I just find out in Facebook through. And even though I joined your group, and I have seen a lot of people are recommending me to join in your online course. So he said, just join the online course. They will help you 100%. Prepare yourself for the day one assessment center. So today I'm very new here, and today I just came here to get some ideas like how I'm gonna prepare myself. Yeah, I'm pretty much excited, because after moving in this country, I always wanted to become the police officer, but I wasn't eligible for that. Recently, I have got my indefinite leave to remain in this country. So first job I applied for, this is the policing Metropolitan Police Constable I applied for, and I'm not like believing that I will be past that. I will become the police in first time, but still I'm not gonna give up myself. I just decide.
Right. Well, Hassan, that's awesome news. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you've already signed up to my course, haven't you, with the interactive webinars?
Yes, I did. I attended it. I just joined the course, and I'm expecting like from next week I'm gonna join in the webinar.
Great, brilliant. I thought you had, and I've also given you access to previous recordings from webinars, from previous courses. Yes. Okay. Yes, I'm sure I've done that. And I'm sure you've asked.
Oh yeah, you have mailed me. You have emailed me.
Okay. So everything you need is there. Everything you need is there. You'll join us tomorrow evening for course number 3, where we're going to do the written exercise. And on Thursday, we're going to do the briefing exercise. So you're already in the Facebook group for course number 3. Watch out tomorrow afternoon for the link, the Zoom link. It'll go in that group. And then we'll see you tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
All right. So Hassan, you're all set. You are all set. Welcome. And all of that. Get my leave to remain. First job I've applied for is the police. That's just awesome. Brilliant. That is awesome. Thanks, Hassan.
Even sorry, I have some confidence because of the language, because the English definitely is not my first language. There's like a little weakness is always working because of the language. But
let me just stop you there. How many hands up in this group if English is not your first language? Hands up in this group if English is not your first language. There you go. There's 3 of you out of 15, so that's a pretty good percentage. Normally, oh, there's another one, Anissa as well. There's 4 of you. So honestly, English as a second language is not a barrier. There's so many of my clients get through. I know it's a little bit more of an additional challenge. I know police forces, I don't think police forces really allow for that. But follow the system, follow the structure, and you'll manage it. All right, okay, so I'm just going to mute you all now, and then let's go with the first question. So Emily talked about Detective Constable bolt-on. Anyone else going for Detective Constable? Hands up if anyone. Hands up for those of you who are going for Detective Constable. Alexandra, Emily. All right, so not too many of you. So, but I know there'll be people who are watching this on the replay who will be going for Detective Constable bolt-on. The first thing you asked, Emily, was how do I integrate the competencies and values? Don't. That's my first advice, is just don't do that. The reason being is it'll just confuse you. Where's my copy of the competency and values framework? Where is it? Where is it? Oh, I told you I've been away for a weekend, so I should have had this ready, shouldn't I? It would be the bottom of the paperwork. It would be at the bottom. So here's the competency and values framework from the College of Policing. This is what everyone gets a copy of. This is your starting point. Forces say you'll be assessed against the competencies and values from the College of Policing. And then they show you things like this. The wheel of confusion. The wheel of confusion. It's not written in a very easy to understand way. I mean, I get it, but I studied, when I was in the police, I spent 6 years in the training section, training probationers, training student officers, then doing some diversity training, and then training trainers and training the trainers of trainers. And I got involved in a lot of national work around standards and qualifications. And I went back to university and did a master's in education where I focused on standards and qualifications. I get all of this. I should do, because I geek out on it. I'm that kind of geek, but I know most of you don't. And the other thing is, most of the assessors don't either. Most of the assessors haven't got a clue what this means. I know that because in the workshop that comes after this one, the one that starts at 8:15, gives me a 15-minute break. It's a weekly workshop for serving police officers where we practice for promotion boards and specialist interviews. And a lot of them are assessors because they're sergeants and inspectors going for the next rank up. And honestly, when I talk to them, they don't understand it. And they're actually assessing people for the next rank. And they don't understand what any of this means. So that's my first bit of advice, Emily, is forget the competencies and the values, because your head will just get pickled. The thing to focus on, especially for this, and this is the same for all of you. You know, the thing to focus on is just answering the question. So I'm going to digress a little bit. So when it comes to things like your interview questions, especially when it comes to in-force interview questions, if I was to ask you a question about analysing information in order to make a decision where you've had to account for that difficult decision to other people. So a common question, please can you tell me about a time when you've had to analyse multiple sources of information in order to make a really challenging and difficult decision, and where other people may not have agreed with you, or where you've had to account for that decision to others. So I'll just throw this out there. Which competency or value is that from? Not necessarily for yourself, Emily, because you're not getting assessed against this tomorrow. You're not being asked interview questions. But from anyone else, can you tell me which competency or value this is from? Go on, Kit.
Transparency.
It's from transparency. Okay. Right. Thank you, Kit. Has anyone else got any? So, Alexandra, what do you think?
I think it's from the way analyze critically.
Alexandra thinks it's from analyze critically. Okay, thank you, Alexandra. And anyone else? Any other views? No? Okay. I'll just, right, okay. So, Alexandra, you're correct. Kit, you're correct. Hang on a minute, how could that be? And why didn't one of you mention impartiality? Because when you look at the descriptors, the behaviours, you'll see impartiality, it says, I make fair and objective decisions using the best available evidence. I make fair and objective decisions using the best available evidence. Ah, so actually, Alexandra and Kit, you both got it wrong. It's impartiality. It's the impartiality value. Oh, hang on a minute. Transparency. I ensure that my decision-making rationale is clear and considered so it's easily understood by others. Oh, so it must be transparency. And how could it be both? And then if we look at analyze critically, I refer to procedures and precedents as necessary before making decisions. I weigh up the pros and cons of possible actions, thinking about potential risks and using this thinking to inform our decisions. That's it. It mentions decisions twice. There you go. So, oh no, I make decisions in alignment with our mission, values, and the code of ethics. So I think analyze critically wins because it mentions decisions 3 times, but it's also inherently in there in terms of transparency and impartiality. So the point being, and so the same goes for yourself, Emily, tomorrow is, if you make your focus the values and the competencies, you'll just confuse yourself because they're too confusing for most people who don't geek out about it like I do to understand. And the assessors don't either. The assessors just go, that was a really good solid answer. They can't remember all the behaviors. I can't remember all the behaviors, but I know that things like decision making cuts across so many different values and competencies. If I then look at things like we're collaborative, you have to get information from other people in order to make a decision, in order to solve problems. So it kind of cuts across we are collaborative as well. It kind of cuts across integrity because doing the right thing in difficult situations or difficult circumstances, even when no one's watching, involves making strong decisions. So it kind of cuts across integrity too. And that's like half of all the values and competencies. So the point is, focus on the question, focus on the task, focus on the thing that you're being asked to do. Because if you go into an interview, especially, and you think, they ask you a question and you're there racking your brains thinking, which value or competency is this from? They don't care and they don't understand neither. They just want you to answer the question in a structured and detailed way. They might even be matrix marking, which means that there are behaviors that they're marking you against from impartiality, transparency, and we analyze critically. So if they start matrix marking you, then God help you if you try, whichever God you believe in, help you if you try and decide which value or competency it is. So Emily, back to your task tomorrow. The intro exercise, what format? I tend to advise people to, just going to make sure I jot this down. So have the headline problem, 1 sentence, what's the headline issue? And then talk about how you'd prioritize it. I go into this in a huge amount of depth on my course, which if you were on my course, you wouldn't be asking this question, I don't think. Emily, you on my course?
Which one?
The interview course.
I think I've just bought, I bought it today. We're doing everything very last minute.
Right.
Whereabouts is that on your course?
Emily, right. If you're on the interview course then, and if you can't find it, email me after, even though it's the evening, email me after, because it might be that you've bought the assessment center course, which is completely different. It's the online interview course.
Okay.
Go to the later modules where I talk about the intro exercise modules, where I talk about the Eisenhower matrix, and also the II March modules, where I take you through a briefing structure. I actually take you through you could do nothing worse than just watch all the videos which are part of the briefing structure, because it will give you a template and it'll give you stuff to say tomorrow in your briefing, because it just ethically sourced. The example I use might just be fairly similar to the one that you're going to get tomorrow.
Okay.
Ethically sourced. I have my ethical contacts within so many different police forces. So basically what we're going to do, headline, we're going to talk about how we're going to prioritize it. So you'll be able to take a look at the videos in that course, Emily, where I I talk about the Eisenhower matrix. It was President Eisenhower in the United States, passed away now, who said that what is important is seldom urgent, and what is urgent is seldom important. What he meant was that there's very few things that are both urgent and important. So we can come up with a matrix there. In one box, it's got a four box matrix. One box, it's got urgent and important. So if it's urgent and important, it needs dealing with by you because it's important, and it needs dealing with now because it's urgent. The next box is things that are important, so they need dealing with by you, but they're not urgent, so we can defer them until tomorrow. We can diary them in. But when it gets to the point where they're diaried in, they then become urgent and important. They've got to get dealt with. We can't just keep putting things off. The box that's really important for you tomorrow is the box that says things that are not important, as in you don't need to do them, but they are urgent. They do need doing today. So what we'll be looking at tomorrow is your ability to delegate. And because you can't do everything yourself in this exercise, you can't do everything yourself, you'll drown. You've got to delegate. So know that there's PCSOs that you can delegate to, things like house-to-house inquiries. Know that you need to go to the patrol sergeant or response sergeant, whatever they call them in the Met, response sergeant, I believe, to see if you can get resources to go and take statements or to secure a scene or whatever it might be, because you can't spend your time as a detective securing a scene, standing on a scene guard. That's not your job. Your job is to investigate the crime. So that's a really important box for you. Things that are important, so they're urgent, they need doing today, but they're not important, as in they don't need doing by you. Okay. And then there's another box which is not important and not urgent. And you may get something in that box that's not important and not urgent. It could well be something like an antisocial behaviour problem that's disturbing an elderly and vulnerable person. That's a trap. It's a trap if you get anything like that. The trap is that you think, right, well, what I could do here is I could do this, I could do that, I could send round PCSOs, I could contact housing officers, I could do all of these lovely things and get to report back to me and I can come up with a great solution. No, it's not your role. It's landed on the wrong desk. It's something that's urgent and important for a PCSO. It's not urgent and important to you. If you delegate it to someone, anything you delegate needs to come back to you with a report as to how it's been completed or how the task has been completed. This is just one to get rid of. So it's not urgent, it's not important, it's nothing to do with you, it needs to go somewhere else. So watch out for that one because it's a trap.
What would your reply be in that? As in, you're not going to deal with it. I'm assuming you don't say, I'll just drop it, forget it ever exists, because then the elderly person will be left without a response. So do you say, you just tell someone else it's not your problem?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. You'll cover this. I mean, you're going to probably geek out with lots of coffee until 1 o'clock in the morning now on the course. But I cover this sort of thing in the course, that this is something that you direct to a neighbourhood sergeant, so it can be allocated to one of their team for immediate action, but you don't need a response back from them.
Okay.
You're not delegating it to anyone. You're just directing it to the most appropriate resource for them to deal with, and that's it. You don't need to hear back from them.
Okay.
You just trust that they will deal with it, because we need to trust our fellow officers. So hopefully that'll help you a little bit there, Emily. In terms of actually, that's the written exercise that you talked about. The briefing is a really challenging one. But watch my videos where I talk about the II March briefing model. You will, if you can adopt just half of that, you'll sound like a detective with a decade's worth of experience under their belt.
Cool.
So, but there's a lot to remember there. But I've just had a response back from actually, let me just read it out to you. It's just awesome. This is someone who's just got the result back today. Bear with me a moment. I'm so pleased for it. It's Esther, who hopefully you'll meet, because if you pass this, you'll be part of one of the detectives in the Met. Esther just got the news back this morning to say she'd passed I was doing one-to-one coaching with Esther for the detective bolt-on. Priceless. Where to start? Can't thank Brendan enough for the help and support he's shown during my recruitment process for the police. It's been my dream since I was a little girl. Couldn't have done it without his guidance. I bought the full package with Brendan, and it's honestly priceless. This is the best money I've ever spent. Put so much effort into helping everyone achieve their dreams. Not only this, but you're part of a huge group of other recruits who are there to share their stories and a helping hand. Simply amazing. Thank you, Brendan. There you go. So that's it. Off Trustpilot. But so Emily, that'll be you in a month.
We'll see. We'll see.
That'll be you in a month. Esther used everything that I've shown you on the course that you've bought, everything, and that's what happens. That's what happens. She came back. She did it just under 2 weeks ago, and she said it was really tough, really challenging. She forgot so much. But the one thing I always say to people is, because I show you so much, when you walk out, you'll always think, I've forgot to include so much, because you know more than other people know, and you will walk out tomorrow thinking, I could have said, and she did, and that's predictable. Most of my clients walk out of the assessments doing that. So, and then the next question you asked, Emily, was about vetting. Should I set everything to private? I used to be a police officer. You know, I'm a sneaky old sort and a suspicious sort, and I assume I operate by the ABCs of policing, that I assume nothing, I believe no one, and I challenge everything. If I was doing the vetting and I came across someone who had no social media footprint because everything's set to private, and I can't see beyond anything other than just their name, and I can see also that you've just recently changed the settings to make everything private. Straight away, I will be like, all right, so what's this individual trying to hide? What's this individual trying to hide? So I would just, you know, keep it open as it is now. Keep your settings as they are now. You will, once you're in the police, learn that it's very wise to change your name on Facebook and stuff like that. And don't do what most cops do, which is to spell the name backwards. You know, do you think criminals will have worked this out by now? Honestly, that cops just spell their name backwards on Facebook and think they can get away with that? Duh. Change it to something completely bizarre. Change it to decision-making rationale. I don't know, I'm just reading something off the CVF here. Just pick some random words from the CVF and call yourself that. Or, I don't know, Lipton Peach. Yeah, that sounds like a pretty good name, doesn't it? So if I see, Emily, that there's someone called Lipton Peach wants to join the Facebook group, I'll know it's you. Change your name to something like that, just so you can't be traced, that's all. And, you know, as long as you've not got pictures, if there's pictures of you partying with your friends, hey, who doesn't party? If there's pictures of you having a night out, hey, who doesn't go for a night out? That's fine. If there's pictures of you holding slogans, racist slogans up and chanting some racist festival or something, then your entry into the police might be questioned.
Okay. There's nothing like that.
I'm sure there's nothing like that. So don't set anything to private. Actually, it just reminds me of I go off at tangents all the time. Those people who know me know I go off at tangents, but reminds me of a chap a couple of years ago, 4 years ago in the Facebook group, who was complaining that no matter what happens, he keeps failing at vetting. And someone went through his Facebook profile and said, I'll give you a helping hand out if you want. Do you want me to look at your Facebook profile, see if there's anything obvious? And he said, yeah, that'd be really helpful. So he came back after an hour and said, you've got a post there that says the Cray twins were just misunderstood and they were actually okay. There's 2 posts of you at English Defence League marches. And there's another post from you admitting that you've been arrested by the police, but it was a wrongful arrest. They shouldn't have arrested you. You just happened to be at an EDL march and it was just coincidence. And there's another post from you talking about how you'd like to slap up your bitch, to quote, or something like that. That's the best way of dealing with your girlfriend.
Right.
No surprise you keep failing at vetting. It was an awesome post, and I just read it and thought, I'm going to block this guy because I don't even want him in the Facebook group. Unfortunately, he just 1 minute later he departed, and that was it. I did then block him to make sure he can't get back in. and you can't access the blue light world. That's the most extreme version I've ever seen. I can't understand why I keep failing vetting. What a moron. I'm sorry, you know, I'm not one to cut, but what a moron. I mean, really, what a moron. You know, the Cray twins were just misunderstood. I just happen to be at these English Defence League marches all the time. And then the comments about how to treat women, just insane. All right, Emily, does that help?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Awesome. Straight after this, get stuck into the course. And if you've got one that's called the Online Assessment Centre course, get in touch with me straight away. I'll switch them over for you because it means you've got the wrong one. Joshua wants to know about the stage 3 briefing. It's current iteration. And some of you might be thinking, current iteration? There's been other ones? Hang on a second. Yes, there have been other ones. Oh, before I forget, Emily, back to Emily. Emily, could you drop me a message and I'll give you access to the interview course webinars Facebook group. That's where I store all the recordings of all of the interview webinars I have. So drop me a message after. I'll give you access to that. There's about 4 direct entry detective webinars in there where we actually talk through how the written exercise and the briefing would work. So drop me a line after. It normally costs to join that, but everything's so tight for you. Want to help you out, so drop me a line after and I'll give you access to that.
Yeah.
Right, Joshua, stage 3 briefing. Right, the thing about the Online Assessment Centre was introduced post-COVID because the previous Search Assessment Centre, Day 1 Assessment Centre, the police couldn't run those anymore. There would have been like coronavirus carousels. So they had to go online, and they went online completely. I thought they were going to do like interviews with proper Teams or Zoom meetings where they could interview you face to face and talk to you like this. But no, they went completely online. So you can join some forces now without even talking to a person. So I'm digressing a little bit, but this is how insane the Online Assessment Centre is, that you can, and how bonkers it is. You can join some forces, and all you have to do as an assessment is do the Online Assessment Centre, where there is no human interaction whatsoever. West Midlands Police, Thames Valley Police, Merseyside Police, temporarily their Chief Constable, Serena, tells me. I used to work with her years ago. Avon and Somerset, Hampshire, I think there's one other that escapes me off the top of my head, but all of those forces do not require you to have a face-to-face interview. They do not require you to actually talk to a real person. So everything on the Online Assessment Centre is just tick box formulaic, and they tell you don't need to have any experience of policing to be able to get through it. Come to that in a moment. It's a big lie, it's a big fib. College of Policing will say, no, you really don't, but you do. I mean, seriously, you do. But the lack of actually talking to someone astounded me. I put it out on Twitter I put it out on Twitter all the time, actually, just saying, does anyone else find this bonkers? And the Mirror picked this up, the actual Mirror newspaper picked this up. They didn't speak to me, they just picked up all my quotes and quotes from other people and turned it into a story. And how I said the whole process was bonkers. They approached West Midlands Police, and I'm surprised at this because I used to work with Dave Thompson, their Chief Constable. He's a good bloke. We were both sergeants together years ago. And West Midlands Police said, they do get to talk to someone at the fitness test. The only thing that's said at the fitness test is you need to run between these lines. This is the instructions for the bleep test. Do you all understand? Yes. That's all you need to say. So that's a miserable excuse. Avon and Somerset, we do a sort of a ask any questions session with them. A bit like this one, where you could just sit back and say nothing. Say nothing. So that's a miserable excuse. Hampshire Police said we got rid of the face-to-face interviews to reduce unconscious bias. What? I don't get that neither. Yeah, we got rid of it to reduce the bias in interviewers. Well, make sure that your interviewers aren't biased. That's probably the first step. It reminded me years ago, I'm going to get to problem solving stuff about the briefing in a minute. When I was a neighbourhood inspector in Sale, we had some homeless people who caused lots of issues, lots of problems, and they used to gather on a bench. And the solution, the local councillors and the public were saying, remove the benches and then they won't gather on them. And I was saying, do you not see the problem in this? And they're also saying ASBO them. There's no ASBOs now. They're called something, criminal behaviour orders. Let's just let Layla in. They're also saying ASBO them out of town. But the problem with this is that you don't deal with the problem. You just move it on somewhere else. So basically Hampshire are saying we've got interviewers who demonstrate bias against people from certain backgrounds. So we're going to remove that bias by stopping them doing interviews. I don't get it. I really don't get it. Someone tell me that if someone must try and explain to me that I've got it all wrong, please do so, but I just don't get that. But anyway, the point being is there's never been a better time to join those forces, because all you need to do is get through this tick box process. The stage 3 briefing. Once you've done your stage 2 interview, that's not an interview, you're just recording answers onto some software that's going to be assessed later on by an interviewer who's never met you, doesn't even know what force you're applying to, probably doesn't care neither. They're assessing probably 8 to 10 candidates every day. They've been doing that for the past 1.5 years. They're bored out their brains. It's nothing to do with motivation, nothing to do with how inspirational your answers are. They're just looking for you to tick boxes. Tick, 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 pass. Through you go. It's the same with the briefing. The original briefing was where they gave you a scenario, and the briefing is where you've got to answer 12 questions. You've got 3 minutes to answer each one of these questions. And the 12 questions are about a crime problem they're going to give you, but you don't need to have any knowledge of policing. That's what the College of Policing guidance says, but they're giving you a crime problem to deal with. The first iteration they gave you was drug dealing, organised crime, homelessness and vulnerability and drug taking. So not much to go on, not much there that's got nothing to do with crime, nothing to do with policing. They got rid of that one, I understand from my ethical sources, because the feedback was it was just too policing. So they presented a couple of options to the police service. One of them was an illegal rave. So you're going to deal with an illegal rave? That would need a gold, silver, bronze structure to deal with. The gold would probably be a superintendent. The bronze would probably be a chief inspector or inspector. Sorry, and the silver would be a chief inspector or inspector. And the bronze would be sergeants or inspectors. It would probably require 100 plus officers. What they were thinking, I don't know. The other option, smart option they're also thinking of, was giving you a problem in a community where members of the community were stopping reporting crime because they didn't trust the police, and they were going to take vigilante action. And the majority of the people who were in that camp were from Black and Asian minority groups. So no stereotyping there from the College of Policing, eh? They had feedback from some inspectors to say that that would be a really, really challenging issue for us to deal with in the rank of inspector. So they got rid of that one. So what they went for was a noisy party. But they went for a noisy party that gets insanely out of control and turns into a public order situation with multiple crime scenes and all sorts of other shenanigans going on. That when I heard about, ethically, I heard about the contents of it, I thought as an inspector, because that's what it used to be, I would want to be down there taking control and command and control of this. If not me, a really, really, really experienced sergeant. So why are they giving you that to deal with? I don't know. So that only lasted about 2 months. The iteration they're using now is what I call noisy party light. It's a noisy party where not much happens. That's about it, really. It's a noisy party where not much happens. Some kids get drunk. That's about it, really. So you got to talk for 36 minutes about that, which I think is equally bonkers, because you are being asked questions about something where the police don't have a statutory power to deal with it. The police do not have a statutory power to deal with noisy parties. That's environmental services. They've got statutory responsibility within the council to deal with noise nuisance. Statutory noise nuisance takes place between 11 o'clock and 7 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock in the evening, 7 o'clock in the morning. It has to be persistent in its nature. So one noisy party does not even fit within that category. So I suppose their thinking is, let's give them something that doesn't require police powers. But they've not taken a look at the Antisocial Behaviour, Crime and Policing Act of 2014, which gives you a power to issue a closure notice to premises which are causing what? A nuisance. The legislation actually defines a nuisance. So I don't think they even are even aware of that legislation. So this goes to Kit's point, I think, who talked about the knowledge of police powers. I've worked with and for the College of Policing on 4 occasions during my career. They're nice people, but most of them aren't police officers and have never had warrant cards in the pocket. I challenged one of them years ago when Bluelight used to be the biggest deliverer of the Certificate of Knowledge in Policing. I was challenging him on some material that we thought was incorrect. One of my retired superintendent colleagues thought it was incorrect. Two retired inspectors thought it was incorrect as well, and I thought it was incorrect. And we're all very familiar with how custody officers work, and it was about custody office procedure. And eventually, I remember having this meeting with him, and I looked at him across the table and just said, "Look, have you ever actually been in a custody office?" And he went, "No, but it's on my list of things to do." Very nice chap, didn't have a clue. So that kind of sums up the College of Policing. And if anyone from the College of Policing is listening to this, then you are nice people, you are. But come on, you need to get a grip and get in touch a little bit with what's going on and listen to the serving officers out there who you run back these exercises by. Please do listen to them because they do know what they're talking about. So they're giving you a scenario that's really quite a challenge to deal with because of the legislative requirements, the things you need to have as tools and powers to be able to deal with it. No point in just saying I'd seize alcohol from people because you need a power to do so. It's either under a public space protection order or it's under dispersal powers. But you need to know things like you need to be in uniform. You can't require their name and address. You can require them to surrender anything which you believe could be used to cause disorder in the future when you're dispersing them. And that includes alcohol. So that's where your power comes from. You don't have the power just to take alcohol off people. You can't do that. You've got to have a power to do so. You can't just require people to do things unless you've got the power to do so. They probably are not aware of the dispersal powers and the complexities of dispersal legislation. I used to train forces in antisocial behaviour tools and powers, and I can promise you this, only about 20% of the police officers I was training knew their dispersal legislation inside and out. The rest of them just didn't know. Only about 10% of the police officers I trained knew that there's something called Section 50 of the Policing Reform Act, which gives you the power to require someone to provide their name and address if you reasonably believe they have committed antisocial behaviour or they are committing antisocial behaviour. But then you need to know what the definition of antisocial behaviour is, and there's several different definitions depending on which Act of Parliament you want to take a look at. So look, the point is, this is where it gets complicated. My clients who completely geek out on this, but they also need to geek out on other things, which is problem-solving techniques and problem-solving systems and processes, safeguarding. Because if there's two young people who are drunk, you need to know your safeguarding powers. You can't just forcibly take drunk people and take them to a police station or take them home to their home address. Or if you don't know what the home address is because they're so bladdered that they can't tell you, you need to know what the powers are that you're going to use. And as soon as you know that, then you can give a really good answer. So your police protection order powers. Dispersal legislation gives you powers to take young people either to their home address or to a place of safety, but only if you reasonably believe they're under 16. If you either know or reasonably believe they're under 16. So they could be bladdered and they could be around 16, but if you reasonably believe they're under 16, you can take them to a place of safety or their home address. Anyway, the point being is that this situation, this scenario they're giving you is littered with legislation. And I don't think the College of Policing have got a clue about any of that legislation. I think they just expect you to make it up as you go along. Fortunately, those people who follow my guidance on the safeguarding, on the problem solving, on the long-term problem solving, on the focus on things like adverse childhood experiences, not just looking at the causes of the problem, but looking at the causes of the causes. Things like setting up working groups and having a long-term plan. They're the ones that are getting sort of 90% in the briefing and the written exercise. So I think it's a bit unfortunate, really, that they're giving you this, but the old golden rule applies. Those who hold gold make the rules, and that's it. So whatever we think about the College of Policing and how bonkers the process is, it doesn't matter. It does not matter one bit, because they hold the gold. So they make the rules. So we've just got to follow their rules and play by them. But if we play by them, we can tick box our way through this whole process. And I think that's awful. I think it's dreadful that we're in this situation where you can join the police without talking to a person, and where the process for the assessment is so tick box. My 13-year-old daughter could pass it. She could. I'll put £1,000 on it. £1,000 on it. £1,000 on it that my 13-year-old daughter could pass this. If the College of Policing are listening, if you want to take up that challenge, fantastic. You've got nothing to lose, because if she passes it, you owe me nothing. If she fails it, £1,000 goes to a charity of your choice. Actually, I'll make it 10. I'll make it £10,000, because my 13-year-old daughter could pass this. She would just follow the systems, follow the processes, which a 13-year-old could learn, and she'd pass. Isn't that awful that you can join the police by doing that? The College of Policing needs a bloody good shake-up. They really do. And the chiefs out there as well need to get a bit of a grip. This is all going to come back, and it's going to come back and harm the service. And that's the sad thing about it, because there's people who are going to get to join the police where no one has asked them any questions about their values. No one's asked any questions about their motivation. No one's got inside their heart to find out what drives them. And some of them are going to commit horrendous acts of breaches of misconduct, of breaches of the code of ethics. And there's going to be newspaper articles that are going to look back and ask questions about how this person managed to join the police without talking to anyone. So anyway, I digress. But Joshua and Kit, does that help answer your questions?
Yeah, thank you, Brendan. Yeah.
Yeah. Shameless plug. You want to find out about how to structure everything and the template to use for the stage 3 briefing and the stage 3 written, hop on course number 3. We're covering the written exercise tomorrow, and we're covering the briefing exercise on Thursday. And then you can still join course 4 in the future. And there's a bit of a bonus if you join as a result of this. I'll give you access to recordings from course 2 and 1 as well. Basically, we come up with a template. The College of Policing couldn't have designed this better for me. I spent 8 years as a neighbourhood inspector. The last of those years was in the strategic change branch in GMP, and then retired, spent 3 years as an international advisor on a big European project that was looking at problem solving, community policing. I've spoken at conferences about it. I've worked with forces. This is stuff I geek out on, this problem solving stuff. So this is why my clients are getting 90% plus, is because they're writing about stuff and talking about stuff that's advanced problem solving that most forces will not show you because they don't understand it themselves. And in terms of the CVF, you don't even have to worry about that, because it just all falls out of the sky. It falls out of the sky. Tyler, let's see what time. Oh, we've only got about 5 minutes. Okay. Tyler, any tips? Where to start? Yeah, I could just go on forever. West Yorkshire Police, one of my clients has just done a transferee interview for West Yorkshire Police. The questions were very much competency based, nothing too challenging. But I also believe, excuse me, that some potential candidates have been to go in as new joiners, not as a transfer. I've been told that some of the questions might be 2-stage questions. I don't know if you've heard that, Tyler. Have you had that at all?
Yeah, I had the workshop, and they said there's going to be like 5 2-stage questions, where you get like 5 to 8 minutes to answer the question or something.
Did they say what the 2-stage questions were? Did they explain what that is?
They said based on the values framework. So if it was like on transparency, there'd be like a question and a follow-up question.
Right. Expect things like what values are important to you? What value or values are important to you? And then the next stage would be, give me an example of when you've demonstrated one of those values. Why is community engagement important? Followed by, how in the future will you do effective community engagement? So these are sort of two-stage questions which other forces have been doing. There's a YouTube video. Tyler, if you jump on my YouTube channel, just go to Bluelight Consultancy on YouTube. I did a recent video where I talked about some examples of two-stage interview questions. Equally, it could just be, can you tell me about a time when you've had to work in collaboration with others to solve a problem? Followed by, what did you learn from that? But for those people who follow my structured approach, they cover learning, they cover the difficulties, they cover everything that needs to be in a good solid question anyway, good solid answer anyway. So there'd be no need to do a two-stage question. Sussex do something like a three-stage question. They're really complicated there. So can you tell me about a time when you've overcome an obstacle? What were the particular difficulties and how did you overcome them? So it's like three questions all rolled in one. I think they're really confusing. I think you should just be asked one question at a time. Actually, good practice, I know this because I used to geek out on this stuff, remember, is one question at a time. So two-stage questions, they might be like that, Tyler, they might not be. Like I said, transferee interview was really quite simple. Can you tell me about a time questions? So forces make this stuff up as they go along. You know, if you try and Google, and I'm sure you have, two-stage interview questions, it's probably come up with all sorts of gobbledygook. A bit like North Yorkshire Police, who boast that they do a strengths-based interview. And it's not. If you look at the definition of what a strengths-based interview is, what they do is not. It's just a fancy word for fancy questions based on the competency and values framework. So it could be anything, Tyler. You know, it really could. Just prepare yourself for everything. Are you on my interview course?
No, I've literally like read through all the like value framework and everything loads of times. I've only, to say it's on Thursday, I've only started doing it today. So, you know, I love leaving things last minute. So.
All right. Well, like I said, just reading this won't do anything. So it doesn't really help you. Detailed, structured approach, emotional and an authentic self. So I always advise people is to, in your answers, they want a detailed and structured approach. It needs to be the authentic you, and something about the, you know, your emotional self. Remember, the people who are interviewing, it's not like the online assessment centre where most of the assessors, I know this because I've met a lot of them, are not police officers and they've never had a warrant card in the pocket. At the final interview, you're up against people like me, because I used to do the interviews. I was an inspector, I used to do the interviews. So when I say authentic and emotional, structured and detailed, I want a 4-minute, 5-minute answer. Most of your interviews are going to be about 45 minutes long for your final interviews. They're going to ask you about 7 or 8 questions, maybe 6 questions. If you just do the math, that's a good 5 minutes plus per answer. So there's a lot required of you in terms of that detail and the structure. And don't think for one moment you can get away with any buzzwords. And that's why I say you're probably better off just not looking at that. Because if you use it, if you think you can use buzzwords from this, they'll eat you for breakfast. They really will. They'll just eat you alive. Because they're serving police officers and they've got no appetite for any kind of BS. They've got no appetite for people using buzzwords on them. When people used to try and buzzword me, I'd just stop them, or I'd wait until the end of the interview and enter the question answer, and I'd just say, so thank you for that answer. So you said that you were emotionally aware and you respect you throughout the process. You respected a range of different perspectives and values. How did you do that? And it just floored them, because they've buzzworded me, and they thought by using this that they're going to be able to impress me, and far from it, they just annoy me. So I just ask them a question about it, and invariably they just shrug their shoulders. They didn't know. They're just throwing a buzzword in, and I'd fail them. Because I suppose the big thing, and this is a shameless plug, but look, I want to help you, Tyler. If you do jump on my course, I'll give you the same thing I've said to Emily. I'll give you access to previous webinars where you'll see people actually practicing with me, and the debriefs and the learning that comes out of it. It's just gold. But the key thing is that the key question they're asking themselves is, can I see this person working on my team? Because if they think for one moment that you're not the right sort of person, or you're trying to BS them, or you're trying to put up this veneer, this coating of, this is the person I think you want to see. These are the answers I think you want to hear. As soon as they get any sense of that you're giving them some rehearsed BS, they will fail you. They will fail you for that, because they're not convinced that you're being your real, authentic, and emotional self. There's no replacement for that. If they think you're hiding something, they think you're overly rehearsed, they think you're BSing them with competency speak, if they're anything like me, and I know a lot of them because I used to be in the cops, and I still keep in touch with a lot of them, they will fail you. Because the ultimate question they're asking themselves, and I know some of you heard this before, is, can I see this person working on my team at 4 o'clock in the morning when everything's going completely and utterly pear-shaped, where I need people who are going to pull out all the stops, they're going to give another 120% without being asked to do so. They're not going to complain. They're not going to say TJF. Those of you who've got contacts in the police or contact within the police will know what I mean by that. They're just going to get on with it. I'm just going to get on with it. That's what they're looking for. That's what they're looking for. And that's the ultimate question. Can I see this person at 4 o'clock in the morning on my team? If the answer is no, they'll fail you. If the answer is yes, they'll find a way to help you through. They'll help you through it. They will ask probing questions, although there's some forces out there won't for some odd reason. There's 50-something different ways of getting into the police. It drives me bonkers. And they're always coming up with new ideas like strengths-based interviews, 2-stage interview questions, values-based questions. So addressing Elaine's question, Elaine, is Elaine still there? Where's Elaine? Hands up, Elaine. Elaine. So Elaine, which force was it before that that was all competency-based? Dorset, did you say?
Dorset, yeah,
Dorset.
yeah.
So
I mean, I know it was going to be surrounding obviously the competencies and everything, but I really didn't expect it to be just a replica of the competency-based interview.
So
I think what you said as well. Sorry.
But things like, please can you tell me about a time when you made a difficult decision? Please can you tell me about a time when you've challenged someone's inappropriate behaviour?
Yeah.
Please can you tell me about a time when you've solved a problem?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, just all the typical. In the light of everything and all the SH1C that's going on in the police at the moment about misogynistic behaviour and values that are out of control, in the light of all of that, don't be surprised if you turn up and find that there's no questions like that. It's all questions that are getting into the heart of who you are. But equally, don't be surprised. Equally, don't be surprised if you go back and find that they're exactly the same questions.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to be my authentic self, as you say, and I completely agree with what you said about. I mean, I'm a lot older now, so I was always used to face-to-face, as you say, working with people, and I was in the armed forces. So this has all been a complete different scenario for me. I prefer face-to-face, and so it's difficult to be yourself anyway. And then I wasn't expecting it to just be so. I thought it'd be more person-centered than it actually was, and it threw me a bit.
It might be next time, or it might not be.
Yeah, yeah.
You might get an inspector or a sergeant who is really warm, kind, who's really good at getting the best out of people.
Yeah, I
Or
spoke to him
equally,
after the interview,
yeah.
and he said you were that close.
Oh,
He said just he was trying his best. He said to get more content, he just needed that little bit more.
right.
And
So a lot of that might have been about detail, and this is another big mistake
Yeah.
people make, is they say things like, "I approached the person calmly and professionally," or
Yeah.
"I listened to them empathetically," or I spoke to everyone and managed to get the information I needed. The
Yeah.
thing that's missing is, how did you do those things?
Yeah.
That was the feedback he gave you, wasn't it?
It was some of it, and I think as I say, it's, for me, I've always done sort of interviews or courses or anything like that face to face, so you get that human interaction.
Yeah.
And you get a response, even though they try not to give you a response. It's a humanistic trait, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it felt very impersonal, a bit isolated. And I think that's what put me off. It's taken me a while to get used to the teams and things like that, even though I have meetings all the time, I can turn my camera off and things like that, you know.
Yeah.
So that in itself, I think it did put initially as well, my camera went funny, so my tongue was sticking out. And then to see yourself looking like that, it's not really, doesn't give you that exactly that boost of confidence and self-esteem that you need to get through the questions.
Well, what a world we're in now. What a world we're
I know.
in.
Yeah, I find it really difficult to get used to. I know I should do now after 2 years, but it's still a bit of a newbie for me.
When's your next interview?
Well, it all starts again on the 19th of February. So I'm working again with the inspector who actually interviewed me the last time.
Yeah.
He said he really wants me to get through, and I was like, I know. But I thought the more preparation I can do with you, and as much as possible, I don't want to fail this time.
Are you on my online course, the interview course?
I am, yeah.
You are. All right. Okay. What branch of the armed services were you in, if you don't mind me asking?
Royal Artillery.
Royal Artillery. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Have you got access to all of the previous webinar recordings?
I have, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been looking at them today, and I actually did a little exercise that you put forward to people to ask other people what your main value is that makes you who you are.
Awesome.
I got some pretty crazy questions, pretty fun answers from that.
Well, listen, Elaine, they might go down the road of that. It could be values, it could be competency, as it was before. Yeah. Look, you're already part of the Bluelight cadre, but I'm going to do something here to thank you for your service. Get in touch with me, and we'll spend an hour doing some one-to-one coaching completely.
I'd really appreciate that. Thank you very much. I think I've already emailed you Mither you anyway.
All right, well, drop me a line again. I've been off all the weekend. I had a long weekend away with the family. Drop me a line, Elaine. We'll do an hour of coaching, you and me, to make sure that you're fine-tuned, ready to go, and just complimentary to thank you for your service. And
thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Taking the time today to come and join us. Okay, I think we covered everyone there, didn't we? I think we covered everything. I best go, folks, because just looked at the time. In 4 minutes, I'm running the weekly workshop for serving police officers. So that'll be on a completely different level. Yeah, I'm going for my inspectors board next week, and the question I'm hoping I don't get asked is, and that's a question I always start off by asking people when we do the one-to-one coaching, is what are the questions you really do not want to be asked? Those are the ones to focus on. So folks, when you're doing your practice and your preparation, don't focus on the things that you're already good at. Focus on the things that you really don't want to be asked, that you're expecting you could get asked or it might happen. Focus on those things, because those are the things that are going to challenge you on the day. Keep challenging yourself. That one of the ways that you will almost guarantee success is have a strong, compelling vision of what your future is going to be. See it, hear it, feel it. Close your eyes on a daily basis and imagine what it would be like when you're a serving police officer. Make that vision concrete and compelling, and then work out what is it I need to do to get there. And then do that thing, those things once a day without fail. Taking that action, that daily action, taking imperfect action, because it's not always going to be good. You're going to have off days. You're going to have off days every day sometimes when you're practicing. your interview questions, and you'd be sat in front of someone, a loved one, who's going to be asking you questions. You're going to deliver 5-minute answers. You're going to fall over your tongue. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to miss things out. But you're going to reflect and think, that's what I need to improve on tomorrow, and then go and do it again. Pick yourself up, go and do it again. One thing every day. This is something I've done for years now, for decades. I learned this off a big American guy called Tony Robbins back in the 80s, who's still today doing all the motivational speaking stuff. And but it's just that it was quite a simple process of creating a strong, compelling, concrete vision for your future, working out where you are now and all the steps you need to take to get there, and then just going and doing those steps religiously without fail every day. Who's doing something every day? Hands up if you are doing something every day to take yourself closer to your goal. Awesome, awesome. We've got to make this a movement, folks. Got to make this a movement. This is the way to succeed. I've achieved all sorts of things in my life, and I know so many people have achieved things in their lives, things that other people would have said, you'll never do X. I spent 25 years as a photojournalist for a scuba diving magazine, which is why some people always say, what's that diver magazine cover doing in the background there? That's my first front cover. I got a C in my English O level, and I became an incredibly well-published photojournalist. How did I do that? By doing one thing every day and by modeling other people's success. So that's my last message to you folks is, look, whatever people say to you about you'll never do, because people used to say to me, what, you want to write for a scuba diving magazine? That's never going to happen. You've never been a journalist. You know, all the reasons why you can't do something. And I just thought, well, if they've done it, so can I. And so just model success, and every day did something, and then flying around the world on someone else's budget. It was awesome. And being a police officer at the same time. It's just incredible. So folks, one thing, and I'm pleased to see that many of you are doing this as well. Keep that up, folks. It will pay off. Recording of this will go in the Facebook group, so you'll be able to watch it again. And for those of you watching this on the replay, awesome that you could come and join us on the replay. I better go now. I've got 1 minute to tune into the other group. Take care, folks, and I'll see you all next week at the next workshop, or on tomorrow night in the webinars, or on the... Anyway, I'll see you all very soon. Take care, and thanks for joining me. Bye-bye for now.